On this episode, I'm back with another episode of the Journey into Imagination series, and today I chat with the professor of leisure himself, Daniel Miller. Today's June 7th, 2024, and this is episode 674 of the Main Street Magic Podcast.
Jeremy and Rhonda are more than a little fond of Disney World, so they made this podcast to share it all with you. Reports and resorts, top 10 lists of all sorts, Main Street Magic's bringing it home for you.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Main Street Magic. I'm your host, Jeremy Stein, and while I'm not joined by my lovely wife, Rhonda, today, I will soon be joined by my friend, Daniel Miller. Make sure you check us out on the web at mainstmagic.com, as well as follow on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at mainstmagic. You can also find us on TikTok at MSM Podcast. And if you've not done so already, head out to Facebook and search for the Main Street Magic community and ask to join. And if you go ahead and hit that subscribe button, you get brand new episodes every Tuesday and Friday. If you're planning your trip to Disneyland or Walt Disney World, it can be very overwhelming, especially when it comes to booking those advanced dining reservations. But don't worry, because Mouse Dining removes the frustration of booking Disney dining reservations, alerting you when they spot availability for your desired restaurant, date, meal, and time. Visit msmfriends.com to use this free service. Did you know that Disney Plus subscribers can receive free dining for select arrivals at Walt Disney World between July 1st and September 30th of 2024? If you want to find out more about this offer, as well as find out information on how to book any Disney trip, a Universal trip, go on a cruise, or travel anywhere you want in the world, head to mainstmagictravel.com and fill out a form for a free quote. Our travel services are completely free to you. I am super excited today to be joined by my friend and soon to be yours, Daniel Miller, otherwise known as Professor Leisure on Twitter. Now, I know we missed the May episode of the Journey into Imagination series, but don't worry, because you will get 2 episodes here in June to make up for it. I've followed Daniel for quite some time before I had the opportunity to meet in person, have him on a previous episode, and thankfully get to call him my friend. So I'm really excited for him to join on today's episode. Daniel Miller, who's better known as Professor Leisure, is a comedy fan, your friendly neighborhood weekend enthusiast, author of Drinking at Disney, a travel guide for the enlightened, and the self-proclaimed Jay-Z of Disney World. Let's welcome Daniel Miller. All right, Daniel, Professor Miller himself, thank you so much for joining the Main Street Magic Podcast. You are, this is your second time on the show, but it's been a while.
Jeremy, I can't believe it. I'm so excited, man. Anytime we get a chance to hang out, talk, whatever, you know it's going to be fun.
Oh, it's always the best. And I think this is going to be a lot of fun because this is kind of just a, conversation. I got some questions and stuff I'm going to throw at you. But the first thing I asked all my guests in this series is, like, where does your love of Disney and then theme parks in general, I know for you, come from? Did that stem from your childhood, or is that something that you didn't fall in love with till you became an adult?
No, and it goes into really just even the name Professor Leisure, where the genesis of that is just relaxing vacations. So like my love for Disney really came from Disney World vacations. And then any movies, films, characters usually came from that, from the visits to the parks, from the trips. So anything else that is done is just an extension of that. It's just such a fun place to go and relax. There's so many different options, and I couldn't find a better place.
Now, you're not originally from Florida, correct? Why don't you let everybody know kind of where you grew up and how long you've been in Florida for?
Sure. I grew up sort of mostly in Michigan there when I got into late elementary school, high school, and all that. And when it came time to where you're going to set up your roots for adulthood, we decided, let's go down to Florida. It sounds way better than what we've got going on here. And so we came down in 2001. So I've been down here now since 2001. So I've lived here longer than anywhere else in my life.
Yeah.
So
wow.
For better or worse, I can't imagine now living anywhere else than Florida.
Yeah. So I was not long after you. I got here in 2005. So yeah, a little bit after you, but do you consider yourself a content creator?
That's a good question, because you said that, and the short answer, I guess, is yes. I just definitely go about it a different way in I've always been mostly confined to Twitter is where I've always been sort of my mainstay. Just really um because if I could say there's something I really like to do is it's take a topic or a current event or something else that's happening in the world that is not related to Disney or pools or leisure whatsoever, and then turn it into a reference for Disney or for pools
Yeah.
or whatever we have. And so that's really just the place where it works best. And then lately I have been enjoying like TikTok because it's sort of the same thing where you can take different references and make it into our topic, but it's harder to do that in other ways.
Yeah. Well, what I think will make this conversation very interesting is that you're different, well, in many ways than other guests that I've had on for this series. But in one of the specific ways is a lot of the other guests, most all the other guests I've had, and the ones that are on my list are content creators in the fact that I feel as though they have an agenda. You know, I mean, like I do with the Main Street Magic stuff. You know, that's what a lot of content creators do. They have an agenda of, you know, here's a goal, here's a plan, here's what I want to do with these social media channels and the content that I'm going to create. And maybe correct me if I'm wrong. It feels like this is something you do very much out of just the love for doing it. Do you have like in the back of your mind any sort of plan when you're creating content? I mean, because simple fact is if you put stuff on social media, you're a content creator, you know, like
right.
whether
that's why I say yes, just for that reason. Yeah.
Do you have any sort of long-term plan with it, or is it just something you love doing for fun?
No, I love doing it for fun. I've always dabbled in things like every once in a while I do it just absolute, but it's always just really for fun. Like doing like whether it's like YouTube videos or shorts or whatever it is. But as I don't have to tell you, to have an agenda, to really have a goal, it is a lot of work and time, right?
Yeah.
And the nice thing that I've always found about just social media, if you just stick to social media, Twitter, TikTok, the time commitment is much less at any given moment.
Yeah.
It's short bursts of attention, which maybe that just is the way my brain works, is short bursts of attention. Because I've tried sometimes, like, well, because I'm like, I see people that try like live streaming and stuff, and my brain just doesn't handle just doing a long. I end up I want to go do stuff that I want to put this down and go do something.
Right.
But I can take a moment here and there and post something or create something that's short, and I get distracted pretty easily.
Yeah. You and me both, man. Well, this is really what most of this is about is the hat. I don't have a fancy safari hat. Like I'm sure you've got a whole closet or something full of them. But I do have my Jumbo hat from Animal Kingdom Lodge. And so I got a whole bunch of questions in here. We'll kind of just pull out and go through.
Sounds fun.
I will say I created a lot of these specifically for you and for our conversation. Okay, these aren't some of the general ones that I do in this series. So a little something different for everyone. And we'll just go through and answer some. If you could have any job at Disney World, what would it be and why?
So I got to take off the idea of like, well, I should probably take a career job, right? So let's do like the jobs where, guest facing. I have worked at Disney and I was a tour guide at Disney and I really enjoyed that, but I always wanted to work at a resort. So honestly, probably my number one job I would want to do is recreation at one of the resorts. I love the idea of the recreation team that's out there, playing the games and maybe lifeguarding. So something by the pools is probably where I would end up being.
Is that something you'd ever see as like a retirement plan? Like that's almost what I think for Rhonda and I is like one day, we have to retire. We're never going to retire. We're two people that work for ourselves. So it's pretty much out of the picture. But I think of that, like, would we go work at Disney as a retirement plan? Do you think you'd ever go back to it? Or was the time that you spent there kind of like, hey, I had my Disney time, I was a cast member, that was cool? Or how do you feel about that?
I would. So there's actually a funny story about that. So the answer to the first part of the question, yes, I think about that all the time. Yeah. When can I transition from like a career job to a retirement job? Because basically as little responsibility as possible. So I think about that all the time, and I think, wow, yeah, I feel like I'm getting, but I'm not nearly close enough. So it's very frustrating. But yes, I'm thinking pool. I'd love to be, and I'm thinking more though when I think of it more like a beachfront resort, because the thing with Disney, if we're going to be serious, Disney pools don't have a lot of that. They don't have that guy that just hands out towels.
Right.
Like that's what I want to be.
Yeah.
You know, like puts the chairs out, hands out towels. I don't think they have that guy. So I guess I got to go to a different place for that.
Yeah.
But so that yes, I actually do want to do that. Now the funny story, and it's not that funny actually. So I actually can't go back and work at Disney right now.
Okay.
When I left my job, man, let's get into it. So I did tours in the education department at Disney, and the tour that I mostly did, and I was part time. The tour that I mostly did, they made a new one, and I'm sure you've heard of it. You probably have done it and reviewed it. Wild Africa Trek came along.
Yeah, have not done it, but it is top of my list.
Well, a different department made that and basically did all this cool stuff that we couldn't do. So people stopped signing up for my tour that I like to do, and I wasn't able to work. So basically, after I just didn't work enough, I was not fired, but you are no longer employed. They terminate you. But I hadn't been to work in 3 months at that time, so I had all my stuff. And I never went back to like actually turn in my ID or turn in my stuff. So I still have all my clothes.
I love that.
Because of that, I currently cannot work at Disney again. I'm on the do not rehire list because I have all the clothes.
Really? So you don't return those things and you end up on a list.
Yeah. And at this point, and I keep thinking one of these days I'm just going to go back, but now it's been like 10 years. So can I walk in with clothes from 10 years ago and get off the list? I don't know.
Please do. I mean, I think that sounds like great Twitter content if you ask me. So that would be amazing.
Pretty good.
Yeah. You just walk in and you're like,
I will do that. I'll take a day and I'm just going to here, we're going to do it. I'm not sure if I've ever really talked about that publicly, but I am actually not eligible for rehire because I did not turn back in my clothes. But in my defense, I like to say I never went back to work.
Right.
So
interesting.
I still have my ID. I have everything.
Wow. Do you think, and I wouldn't be advocating this, you think you could put it on, just walk through the front gates of Animal Kingdom and nobody would?
No, they actually are very pretty strict on that ID. Yeah, they're pretty strict on that ID.
Oh man, that's crazy. All right, let's go into the hat for the next one. This is a great one, I think. So comedy is a big part of your identity. Right.
I hope so. I try.
You do a wonderful job of it. Who are some of your favorite comedians?
Oh my gosh. George Carlin, I would say, is number one. Nate Bargatze, as far as a modern comedian. I watched his special and I'm just like, I'm watching myself if I actually had the stand-up talent. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like this is what I would, every joke, I'm like, this is something I would want to say. Like his style is very much what I would, so those are probably just off the top of my head, my two favorites. George Carlin from the past, obviously.
Yeah.
And then right now, Nate Bargatze is probably my favorite.
Oh yeah. And I know Scrubs is you're a big fan of Scrubs. We have that in common.
Yeah. I mean, just absolutely the best. So
yeah.
Those are them.
That's outstanding. All right. Tell me about and tell our listeners about your resort pool madness. How many years have you been doing this? And just talk about that, because I think it's such a cool concept. And again, I know you don't consider yourself technically a content creator, but you put a lot into this.
It's so much fun. You're right, and that's what I've done what you would consider more traditional content creation. It's about it's been like a series. Like I did during COVID, we did National Duck Racing League, where we did the races and raised some money for the Orlando Union Rescue Mission, which was such a cool experience. But as far as the pool madness, every March for March Madness, there's 98 different, let's vote out this whole tournament, right? And I was just thinking once, Matt Fernandez and I, we really just have hit it off as far as our style of making videos. I'm like, so we did one for college football, and then let's do a tournament in the spring. But what we're going to make different about it is if you really every time you're going to do the voting, it's the same. It's going to be the same every time.
Right.
Like there's just the big hitters of any of these topics, whatever it is. The best rides, it's always going to come down to, the same ones. But I said, so what if we just come up with the best stories of who's going to win, and we're just going to create our own.
Yeah.
And just what's the most fun way to present this? And so we try to come up with fun stories of why different pools would beat another pool. Like one of the times the Polynesian in the tournament lost to somebody because their star player couldn't get into park. They got turned away by the security guard, or anything that, because all these places are great. So if it really came down to it, it would, the Yacht and Beach would win every year or whatever, if you really, that would be the fan favorite. So we just figured, what can we do to just have some fun, have some silliness, and let's do a fake tournament and it's really funny. When people, I love when anyone gets involved and actually has opinions and they'll jump in and that's just so much fun. They're like, last year somebody said, I can't believe Shades of Green isn't in here. And they said it so many times. And I'm like, that's such a good point. How did we not put Shades of Green in there? So this year we had to make a run to the Final Four, because, if somebody's got that much passion, that's what we want. That's what we're looking for.
Yeah. And I love that's what you've done with it, because we do the bracket challenges, and it's just Rhonda and I, and it's just like, we like this, but you've given these personalities to the pools, and, you have like, you'll have a pool on the injured reserve, like when they were redoing French Quarter, and so it's like you give an actual personality and a story to these different pools that gives the voting to it and trying to move teams on. Like it's so different. It's so unique. So you guys do an awesome job of that.
Well, I really appreciate that, because we just have so much fun with it. And the sort of the funniest part about it is, whenever we're trying to get together and do it, though, everybody's got busy lives, a busy schedule. So Matt and I both have busy lives. So, I mean, this March Madness has carried on now till June, and, we're getting into the Final Four. But that's the best part, is it doesn't matter.
Yeah. I love that. All right.
So the key is not take it very seriously where it matters. That's the key.
Yeah. What do you think of the term Disney adult?
That's a really good question, because this is fun. I know exactly what they mean when they criticize Disney adults. You know what I mean? Like, I think if you listen to what they say, I get it. Like, there is nothing, let's be honest, is there anything that's logical about going to a hot place in Florida in the middle of the summer and wandering around and going on these rides and standing? There's nothing logical about it.
Yeah.
So what we're doing is illogical. That's not, in theory, that makes no sense what we're doing.
Yeah.
So the fact that it's all emotional and just it's nostalgia and all those things. So embrace it. Yeah, I would say I'm definitely at least Disney adult adjacent.
Yeah.
If not, I probably am one. What somebody would consider, if I'm going to spend my vacation time at a theme park in Florida, I guess I qualify.
Yeah.
But I think from my perspective, I have to. You got to look inward. I acknowledge if you watch really when somebody goes off on a thing, you're like, yeah, it really doesn't make sense, but I don't care. I'm still going to do it.
Yeah.
So I understand, and I acknowledge, and I accept.
Do you think that there's any other fandom that compares? Like I think of football, right? I know you're a big college football fan.
Yeah.
I mean, you talk about grown men like us who can go spend an entire Sunday or Saturday at a college game, for example, who are painting themselves, who are buying merchandise, who are doing all of these things. But for some reason, if you hear like, if somebody said, Daniel goes to UCF games every Saturday during the season, he's there for 8 hours and they tailgate, they do this, this, and this. Everybody's like, that's really cool. Say, all right, Daniel goes to Disney for 8 hours. Oh yeah. Well, how old are his kids? Well, he didn't even take his kids. I'm sorry, what? He's just there by himself. And everybody thinks you're a psychopath, right? So it's weird. I think that there isn't other fandoms that get that negative connotation when sometimes they're just as,
I think football's a good one. I think football's a good one, because I do hear it. The one I always hear about football is, when you see a grown man wearing a jersey with another grown man's name on it, like you're doing like cosplay here as, whichever player you're going has, Jason Kelsey or whatever.
Yeah.
How many times have you seen that jersey in the park, since this last few seasons? And so I think that's a good example. I think, but definitely the Disney adults gets a bad rap for sure. And I don't know. I'm just a big fan. I just say, I'm just going to embrace it though.
Oh yeah.
I'm just going to embrace it. Yeah.
Yeah. You can kind of just embrace the crazy, I guess, in all the good ways, I would think.
Yeah.
But, all right. So this one, I know we chatted about the last time we were on together, but that's been a couple years now. We sat out at Fort Wilderness. That was a blast. Right there. Yeah. Right there by the water. You could hear the boat horns. Oh, but talk about like just a leisure podcast. That was good stuff.
It was great.
So everybody go back and listen to that one. But I know it took some time, but you regained, your Drunk at Disney Twitter handle, which was kind of a persona that you had for years, along with the book that you helped write about drinking at Disney. But you didn't go back to that. You created this new kind of professor leisure, and I'll just call it identity or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Why did you move away from that? Why did you not go back to that? Because that had such a big following. You had a lot of, fans and followers and people that enjoyed that content. What made you decide to move on from that, even though you were able to regain it back?
No, I'm glad you asked, because haven't had too many opportunities to talk about it, because it's something that I was thinking about even for quite a while before that. Where Drunk at Disney came from. Well, if we're going to get into it, I'll get into it. So I was in the middle. I was single at the time, and I was going to Disney alone by myself a lot. And I'm like, one way to not feel so alone is to go on social media.
Yeah. And
I'm like, what do I like talking about? What do I want to like? And I was looking on there. I was reading some of the other people, and most people have side of a topic. That's kind of what, Twitter is you find a topic you like, and that's how you get. And I'm like, what do I like doing? And I'm literally sitting on the Polynesian beach with a cooler of beer, and I'm thinking, you know what? Let's see if I can do drinking at Disney. Well, that was too long, and I'm like, I didn't want to think about it too long, and I came with Drunk at Disney, and then it did gain a very big following.
Yeah.
Now fast forward, now it is very successful. Got lots of followers, and it hit a lot, and then I really did want to not only just expand past it, because it did also hold back a little bit, because it has a negative connotation, especially Drunk at Disney has a definite negative connotation. And I want to just really talk about other stuff too. But I was a little nervous, because I'm like, is it literally going to be nobody wants to talk to me anymore? You get a little self-conscious, right?
Sure.
Is somebody going to really even want to be part of this anymore? And that was just a good timing to do it when I was able to bring it back and switch it over. So probably one of the first main ways I really was ready to pull the trigger, though, is I was with the park with the kids, and when people see you and they recognize you, it would be like, hey, drunkie.
Yeah.
And like, you really don't want somebody calling you drunkie in front of your kids, and they're not doing anything wrong. I was never like, dude, don't call me that or anything like that.
Right.
I get it. That was the persona, right? And I'm like, that was finally the like thing. Let's not do that as much anymore. And so I switched, then I switched it. And not that there's a lot of people that interact with me in the parks, but my daughter was with me the last few times. And, when somebody's like, hey, Professor Leisure or whatever, it's a much more positive experience.
Yes. Yeah, I totally see that. And I respect that very much. I think that's a cool thing that you moved on past that. And the new one, I mean, Professor Leisure encapsulates all of that anyway, as even somebody who wants to go to the Poly and get a Lapu or, it can encapsulate having that drinking side at Disney, as well as everything else, that doesn't have to be that portion.
Well, I know you guys have talked about that too, with like, are we going to do Universal also, or are we just going to stick to Disney? And that was kind of me when you mentioned UCF earlier, and I've really that is my other passion is, UCF sports. And I'm like, did I do a whole, I'm like, why do like another account? Why don't I just like really make this more realistic of stuff that I really talk about, and mix in regular leisure, travel, other things, and then of course throwing a lot of UCF football. And it's been kind of fun seeing the response among just other UCF fans of saying, man, it's kind of cool that you're doing UCF, and I also like the parks, or I also like the pools. So the blending it together has actually gone really, really well, and I was a little nervous about that.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, if I could go back 7 years, it wouldn't be Main Street Magic because it did fix us. And, and that was our thought when we first started was the same thing. It was like, all right, we're going to do Disney and that's it forever, And so it's like Main Street Magic. And so if I could go back, I probably would have changed that. That could have, encapsulated other things outside of Disney, whether it was just, broadening to just Universal or including other theme parks or other things to do in Central Florida. It definitely makes it hard, I think, to expand that. Yeah. When you kind of pigeonhole yourself into one specific thing.
But I think you would agree with this. I mean, it's like you want to do that. And if we're going to get into just content creators in general, I think most content creators would agree that if you make 2 posts, 2 videos, whatever, you're going to do one about Disney, you're going to do one about SeaWorld or Universal. The one about Disney, there's just more Disney fans.
Yeah.
Like, let's be honest.
Yeah.
So there's a benefit to being Disney focused from a pure attention and viewership or fan perspective. So there is that benefit. So you do have to balance that out. Is probably Main Street Magic may not have been where it was had you not had that focus to begin with.
Yeah, that's a great point.
You don't know. I mean, but it's an interesting topic because anything you do about Disney usually gets a far larger audience than when you talk about Universal or SeaWorld or whatever, even though they're similar sized companies.
Yeah. And I think that almost goes back to like that Disney adult. I've never heard the term Universal adult, SeaWorld adult, right? And so I actually think that all the positive and the negative that goes along with Disney can help content creators. It's marketing for yourself and you don't even have to do it. Like, and I don't want to get into everything right now that surrounds Tiana's Bayou Adventure opening, right? But think of what a hot topic that is in general, where if you are a creator right now that does things Disney, you're getting filtered into all of this stuff just because people are now Googling, like Disney, Tiana Disney Bayou Adventure, Splash Mountain, and so all of a sudden you're roped into all these things that people are automatically looking at because Disney has a target on their back all the time, whether it's positive or negative. So, so that's pretty interesting.
Yeah, I agree. And that really is when you do decide to, even when I said, again, like I said, it's a hobby. I don't really, but you still it's really nice to have. Because what I like about having large numbers for follower is really the best part about it is you get so many more chances of somebody interacting. I want those interactions. It's so fun. It makes it so much more fun. And if you lose that, that's some of the fun that gets lost too. It's like, so that is a concern of losing all that is, well, then I won't have anybody to talk to.
Yeah, for sure. And it's one of the things you do really well too, is that engagement and that interaction. I mean, it's a reason that you do so well on those platforms, numbers, people look at numbers so much nowadays, and it's, how many followers do you have? How many likes does this get? But it's really the interaction and the engagement. I would much rather have 100 engaged followers than 10,000 and nobody ever responds to your stuff and you don't get to create these conversations. So you're doing that part so well with, again, that engagement of and it's just being you. I mean, I've met you enough times now and we've chatted enough and engaged enough that I know that like, that's your personality. That's your persona. You're not out there saying, well, I'm going to respond to this person because, it'll get me more likes or it'll get whatever. You're just a genuine human being who loves Disney and UCF and leisurely activities, and it shows. And that's why people follow you. And that's why, people interact with you so much. So bravo on that, man.
I thought it was just, pure handsomeness.
That's close second. The pool photos and stuff like that. And some of those videos, that's taking it up a notch. I know with the female demographic, but so you're Professor Leisure. What does your perfect leisurely walkabout day look like within the Disney resort as a whole, we'll say? So not necessarily parks or resorts, any and all of it.
Right. So number one, if I'm creating a leisurely walkabout day, first off, you want to start where you're going to end. That's number one. So where I found the best place to start and end is Disney's Hollywood Studios. That is, they call the TTC, but not anymore. You go to Disney's Hollywood Studios. That is like the best way to get anywhere you want to be. And that'll be the best way to end. Because as you know, if you're traveling, if you're at a park, you can go to any resort. And if you're at a resort, you can go to any park. So I'm going to end up at a lot of different resorts throughout the day. But then at any time, I can hop on that Hollywood Studios bus and be there in 10 minutes.
Yeah.
So that's where we're going to start and finish. And so I always like, if I'm going to do a whole day, I really want to get some park time in and along with some of the outside stuff too. So I'm going to go, best place to start is always Magic Kingdom. So I'm going to take the bus straight to Magic Kingdom and we're going to start there. So my leisurely day is at least an hour and a half at Magic Kingdom. You don't have to you get to do 3 or 4 rides when you get there in the morning. You get to do several things. And then about 11:30, it's like, and we're done. And that's when you're going to go to whichever resort hits your fancy. Probably the Polynesian because it's right there. And that's one of the reasons I started over there. But probably go to the Polynesian, probably grab a drink over the Polynesian, and then probably bounce to a second park, probably walk through Epcot for a little while, and then hit another resort after that on the way to maybe Animal Kingdom or just back over to Hollywood Studios.
Yeah. Do you have a plan for those days? I mean, because you are a true local, you are somebody that's in the parks a lot, doing things like just enjoying yourself or having a specific reason to be there. Like you wake up on a Sunday morning, you're looking at the week ahead with work, with leisure, with family.
Yeah.
Are you like, hey, I know that I'm going to Disney on Thursday and here's what I'm doing? Right. Or are there times that you kind of wake up and you're like, hey, you know what? I actually kind of got a day to myself. I'm going to go see what happens.
And they always start the same way. It's, I'm going to Disney, period. And you just start heading that direction. Then you build, and I do this when I'm giving advice to people who are having regular vacations. It's people like Disney's too much planning. And I always try to say, do what I call it a framework. And the framework is these specific spots that you want to hit that really just get you going in the right direction. And it's going to be, if you're going to have, so that framework is really what it's going to be. And I'm going to pick that ending spot probably. And then 2 or 3 places I definitely want to get to in the way. And it just gets you in that direction. So you're not constantly thinking what's next. And so what I try to tell people that are on vacation is do that. And if it's that lunch, like pick a lunch at a resort in the afternoon, and that's going to be one of your targets. You're going to hit a park in the morning. Doesn't matter what you do there, that you know at about noon, you're going to hit a resort, have a lunch, and then you're going to go to your second resort or your second park on the way. And it's that, and you're going to end up at Phantasmic at night. So you know to go in that direction. So you're not constantly thinking of what's next because you're heading in that direction of whatever the framework is.
Man, that's genius. What you just said about you're not constantly thinking what's next is so good. And I think it's one of the faults of people having to plan so much for Disney, who don't get to go as often as we do, is that you are constantly thinking what's next. So you're not able to enjoy what's happening right in front of you. If you're just, oh, well, my next Genie Plus is at this time. My individual lightning lane is at this time. My meal is at this time. Like that's all you're thinking about. You're not thinking like, hey, I'm on a ride right now with my family because you're so worried about the rest of the day. Mm-hmm. I love that idea. That's why you're the professor of leisure. That's
one of the reasons that, like with Genie Plus, I try to encourage folks, and when I do it myself, is to always get those for the afternoon. So once you log those in later, if you pick a park and you're logging them for the afternoon, then they're out of your mind. You just don't. I just got to go to Hollywood Studios by noon, whatever. No one are thinking about it, and you're doing stuff in the morning, but it really is just like kind of banking that for later, and then it all works out as you make your way towards that. And it really is that. There's one thing that I don't like doing, and it kind of is I don't like deciding. I don't want to just be deciding all the time.
Yeah.
So if you just pick this direction and whatever you do along the way, trust me, you're going to run into something interesting along the way. Like no matter what it is, you're not going to be bored.
Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah.
So just as long as you're heading in a direction, because that's one thing you always see when you're in the parks, you'll see. And when you see people who are not having a good time, and it's usually like a group of like 6 or 7 people or 8 large, because the more people in your group, the harder it is to decide. And all they're doing all day is deciding what to do, and it's awful. So just if you can somehow get rid of that, it's always better.
Yeah. Yeah. Next you need to write a book on being leisurely at Disney, don't you? Is that in the works? Be more like a pamphlet, or would it be like a full book?
I think because it is more guidelines than anything. And I think it's more letting it happen. It's being okay with maybe spending a few hours at the pool rather than being doing rides, and not having a checklist of you have to do all these things. Just like you said, enjoy what you're doing now.
Yes. Yeah. I love that you brought up the checklist. That's something that we talk about all the time, is like, it's understandable to have a checklist of what you want to do,
Right.
but whether your trip was good or not should not depend on what you cross off.
Right.
Rise of Resistance should not determine if you had a good trip or not, whether you rode that or not. Like, you can still have a great trip and not hit Rise in Cosmic and Tron, and in some of the big rides. Now, it might make your trip a little better and you're going to enjoy that.
Yeah.
But if you walk away being like, my vacation was horrible, I didn't ride Rise of the Resistance, you're like, all right, well, what else did you do, man? Like, let's add all those up. You know? So I love that you bring that up.
It's because I think a lot of people do the sort of the value equation.
Yeah.
And if that's not in there, it didn't get the maximum value because that's the newest ride or whatever. And man, you're just setting yourself up for failure.
Yep.
Because that you can't get the value you paid out of going to Disney. It's not possible in that mindset.
Right.
If it's really just about, I went and had a great time, you can.
Yes.
But if you're doing it like, was this really worth this? Was this really worth this? You're done. You're already done.
Oh yeah. Yeah. If you're like, all right, I spent $8,000 on this trip. Rise of Resistance is worth 500 of that. And you're trying to like just count your thing back. It's never going to work. All right. Next question.
Or even if somebody says like the drone show's good, but it's not, $4,000 worth.
Right. I don't know, man. It's almost $4,000 worth. I wouldn't.
Yeah, it might be.
Oh, that was so good. I'm already like figuring out if I can keep Rhonda up late enough to catch the 10:45 when we're back like next weekend, because it was so good. I loved it.
I so love you said that, because that was the first thought when I was looking at it with my wife. I'm like, whoa, what time is it? Son of a gun.
I know. I love the late sunsets in the summer here in Florida.
Yeah.
But when you can't start any kind of cool activity that is nighttime, fireworks, drone shows, movies by the, at the resorts by the pool, I love. But I'm like, you're not starting that movie till 9:30? Like, counting up 11:30. I don't know about that. So we'll see. But what is the best Central Florida water park and why?
This is I'm going to go through sort of my thought process on this. If you're going to go pound for pound, what's the best water park in Central Florida? It's Volcano Bay. Because it's got the best rides, and it does have it does have a wave pool. And if you don't, so ride for ride, you cannot argue that that's not the best. It's absolutely not possible. They have the best rides, all that. Now, this is where it gets into, if you're a Disney fan and you like in the vibes or what you're going for, then it's Typhoon Lagoon.
Yes.
Because their wave pool is superior to anything that is in Florida, probably, unless there's one I don't know about.
Right.
So just that wave pool alone, plus the lazy river, plus the music and just the vibes of Typhoon Lagoon being so immersive. I mean, that really feels like you're on a tropical island.
Yeah.
So for me, being a Disney, the theming fan, that's going to be number one for me.
Yeah.
Now, if you want sort of the best value, then you're going to go Aquatica, because they also have great rides. And if you get there in those first couple hours, you can knock out like half the rides and then have a nice day there. And they're fast, lazy river, which is great. So the best value is going to be Aquatica, though.
Okay.
But
yeah,
if there was a champion, I have to be honest, it would be Volcano Bay.
I agree completely. My answer is always Volcano Bay is the best water park. Typhoon Lagoon's my favorite.
Yeah, it's exactly the same.
Yeah, I love that. That's why we get along so well. Look at that.
Yeah. See what it's like to be reasonable?
I know, right? Yeah. You just start chatting about it and all these great ideas come about. Let me see what else we got here. That's going to be a good one here for you.
Keep them coming.
This is one of my favorite questions. And now remind me, where are you annual pass holder at? Or
right
Disney?
Now, just Disney at the moment.
Okay. Have you been a pass holder at Universal and or SeaWorld in the past?
Yep.
Okay.
All of them. Yeah, I've had them all. So currently that.
Think of them as a whole, because I think you could even go back in the past and look at those. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on each of those three, right? So Disney, Universal, SeaWorld. Do you feel valued as a pass holder?
I would say, and I'm glad you asked now, because this is constantly in flux. I mean, I feel like it is changing constantly between all of them. Where there was coming out of COVID, nobody felt more valued than a SeaWorld pass member. But we have felt that has switched around a little bit at SeaWorld, and it's a little bit less. They've really, in my opinion, cranked up the prices on everything that you do when you're there.
Yeah.
So we'll get everybody in, and I don't feel as value doing that. So I'm going to say, but then at Disney, it's kind of turned around. I think they've clearly seen that this summer might be a little soft as far as for how much they have to do, and they've really pumped that up a little bit more now with just the way that I guess the way you feel when you go in there. How do you feel valued? I say yes, actually. And then at Universal, 100%. I feel like they are the most annual pass holder friendly resort. But will that continue with Epic Universe? That's what's going to be in flux. They have not come close with or come in discussed logistics at all.
Right.
With ticketing, transportation, parking. They haven't gone, nothing with logistics has been done. They've shown how great the rides are going to be, and it's going to be a great park. But are we going to be able to reasonably
go to
visit?
Right.
I don't know. That's what I don't know. And will I be able to go? That's what I don't know.
Yeah.
And people are, I can't wait to be there on opening day. I'm like,
good
I'm
luck.
not even thinking opening day. I'm like, well, I'll be able to go in the first year,
right.
Reasonably well, because in the ebb and flow, I don't know which direction Universal's going right now as far as the being, fan friendly for the annual pass holders. And I don't want to be negative, but it feels like it might be heading that way with Epic. So we'll see.
I know. I'm super interested to see all that unfold. As far as current because that's we dropped our annual passes back in February to Universal.
Yeah.
Partially financial. Part of it was just content. Like we just said.
Yeah.
Our Disney content does significantly better than anything Universal related, and we can have Universal guests if we really need to talk about it. So I'm interested to see, because I've had a lot of people say to me like, well, aren't you worried about not getting access now to Epic Universe? And I'm like, I don't know that it's going to matter. You could have been a pass holder for a year or for 20 years. And I don't know if you're going to potentially have a benefit over anybody else to get into Epic. I mean, it's possible they could say, for the first X number of months, pass holders are blocked out of Epic, unless you buy your own day ticket or, single day ticket or something. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do.
Just going off their history, they've made it I don't want to say hard, but the Volcano Bay, they've made that it has to be your top tier to get into, to have you can't just go get Volcano Bay as a pass. And now Disney's that way too.
Yeah.
So they're just, it's every level has gotten more restrictive on what's included. And to think that they're not going to do that with Epic seems a little naive to me.
Right. Yeah. Do you think that Disney is super concerned about Epic Universe? Iger recently said like, hey, we've been planning for Epic Universe the past 10 years that we've known about it. That's why we've done things, yearly, or we open a big ride every year. Like, do you want to see a direct response from Disney that says, oh, Epic Universe open, so we have to do this? Or do you like the way that Disney's doing it, where they're going, we're going to drip out new things throughout this whole extended period of time,
I absolutely believe them. I believe what he says. Are they concerned about Epic? Not directly, but they're always going to be concerned about competition in general. But it's really, with any business, yes, you're concerned about the competition, but you always focus on yourself. That's not unique to Disney, Universal, any major business. Yeah, you think about the competitors, but you focus on you. And what they have done their entire history that I've been alive, if you look at the way they manipulate those dates, people think Disney takes forever to do this.
Yeah.
You don't think this is absolutely planned out to take 4 years?
Yeah.
Because if you look at the history, they clearly want something new, whether it's a show, parade, ride. As long as there's something new every calendar year, that if you came once a year, once every 16 months, there's something new that's on. They don't keep this a secret. If you look at like back when it was Must Do Disney on the TV channel in the resort, it was always that here's what's new. It's always that one thing. And then, that 1 year is Expedition Everest, and then it's going to be, Soarin'. And then, so they're not, Disney doesn't, corporations like Disney don't change quickly. They are the large ship with the small rudder. So they're just going to keep doing what they're doing. And so people are like, they're in denial. They're just doing what they're doing, man. They do that every year and a half, something new. And if you don't think that's why these things take a long time, then
Yeah. You're fairly
sorry.
naive. Yeah. No, I agree with you completely. I love that you said that. I mean, again, same brain sometimes with the things that we think
Mhm.
about these. Do
Yeah,
you, I don't know this about you. Maybe it's hidden, but do you have any Disney tattoos?
I do not. I
You,
do not. I'm not a
would you ever get
tattoo.
one? Do you have any tattoos?
I'm this actually. I do not have any.
Okay.
And I don't. I'm not really necessarily interested in it. But shout out to my friend Scott D. I just hung out with him the other day, and he pulled up his sleeve, and he had Shruggy from the Polynesian
Oh, that's
on his arm, and
awesome.
I'm like, that is good.
That's
So
impressive.
if I did, it would probably be. Well, now I can't do that because I would look like I was copying him.
You get a Lapu
But
Lapu.
something right, exactly. So something Polynesian or Animal Kingdom, definitely. But so probably something Polynesian because that is just absolutely my favorite spot in all of Disney.
Yeah, man, you know me well enough and Rhonda well enough and how much we love Coronado Springs and
Mm-hmm.
we still do, but after getting the chance to stay at Poly again last month, like, oh man. It's such an amazing resort to visit, but I think out of all the resorts, and Yacht and Beach is a little different because you can get that access to Stormalong Bay, but
Yeah,
I don't know if there's another Disney resort that goes to such a different level when you have the opportunity to stay there as opposed to visit.
right.
All the
No,
other
it
resorts you can
absolutely
visit,
does.
but man, when you walk back to your room from the beach after watching Happily Ever After, or back to your room for the pool, or you just want to walk
Yep.
down and, yeah, head up to Tambu Lounge or something, or it's just, there's nothing like that resort.
And there's no place that mornings. I mean, the mornings at
Yeah.
Polynesian are just phenomenal.
Yeah.
And that I mean, there again, any resort. All of us who love going to Disney World, those mornings at the resorts are just the best.
They are.
But Polynesian does take it to that next level. When you just can't believe that you're even there. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah. How do you feel about the tower?
necessary evil at this point.
Yeah.
It is what it is. I like that they're kind of leaning into well, remember the original plans had a tower? Like, let's go. But at this point, anything DVC related, it's just a necessary evil, and to focus on it would be silly because it's inevitable at this point.
Yeah. Well, this is, now I'm just going off script here, but that's why this is great. How do you feel about the cabins at Fort Wilderness and what that might do to Fort Wilderness? Because it's, it just has such a feel there. Do you think that it's going to tarnish that, or is that another necessary evil?
I do. I do. I just think, man, it's really, I think honestly, it's clearly them trying to make up for the fact they didn't build Reflections and
Right.
trying to get more DVC over there. But it's squeezing out more campers, which that stinks. I mean,
Yeah.
the fact that the history of being able to go and camp at Disney World, as long as they can keep that and don't get rid of too many, it may not be so bad. But I don't know. That part's a little disappointing just because the idea of a campground at Disney is such a throwback just concept.
Yeah.
Because where else do they have campgrounds anymore? Anywhere nice?
Right.
They just don't. And so it's such a throwback, and I love it. And I hope that stays.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see the overall transformation, especially now as well that Disney has, cut out all third-party golf cart rentals.
Yeah.
They've cut out all but 4 third-party vendors to bring in campers. Now there's 4 approved vendors. Those are the only ones you can do business with. It's going to be interesting to see how that feel, because I know you're the same way. Like, I'm sure to you, the way it does to me, every resort has a feel.
Right. No, absolutely.
And a lot of it's your own feel. It's your own nostalgia. It's the time that you've spent there. Fort Wilderness is probably, maybe second or in line to Coronado Springs, a place that we've spent more time than any other Disney resort.
Yeah.
And so it'll be interesting to see what that transition looks like over the next
I know,
year.
and I'm already, and just this is just personal. It's my wife's favorite, and we used to always go over, and there's already a direct impact on us. And again, we're locals, I get it, but you can't get a reservation there anymore for dinner, so you can't ever go there to just grab dinner unless you're going to do hoop-de-doo.
Right.
But that's an event. I mean, that's not really dinner.
Oh, yeah.
So you can't park there ever. So it even just takes it away as a place to just go and have dinner and spend an evening.
Yeah.
because of the just from the parking. And I know that's a sort of a topic that gets kind of controversial, is the Disney parking at the resorts. But
It does.
as far as a direct impact on what I get to do when my wife and I go over, not being able to park there does bum us out a little bit.
Yeah, it does. And it's not, it's like it's the easiest resort to access that people don't know how to access. Does that make sense?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like
It is. Yeah.
there's ways to get there, but once you get there, it is a very hard resort to take in unless you're staying there and you have a golf cart or you have, because even if you have your own transportation, you can't just take it wherever you want.
Yeah,
You're parking
park
up front and moving around. So
which is what's so great about it, right? I mean,
know.
that's just what's so great about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Is there a Disney IP that isn't currently represented in the parks that you would love to see brought to the parks, and maybe how would you like to see it brought there?
The one that's used a lot is because I've always been sort of at Animal Kingdom, keep the IP, but that ship has sailed, so I'm done with that. And somebody once said the Jungle Book is something that I think, because of the music, that would make the best dark ride ever.
Mm-hmm.
The original Jungle Book. So that's the one that really stands out to me that I would actually really enjoy, because you could do some fun things with that, with a transition from the real Asia jungle into the Jungle Book characters. They could pull that off and it would be really neat. So I would say the Jungle Book's one that I've always enjoyed. And just more for me, more Moana. I've always loved Moana. Yeah. So more Moana always. Again, the music, really. Yeah. And the visuals, the music and the visuals.
And we're going to get it. I mean, especially with Moana 2 coming and potential for that to go in Animal Kingdom or wherever it may go. One of the things I struggle with now is because people do complain so much about, is Disney ever going to create something original again? Or, is everything that goes into the parks have to be an IP? But when does an IP become an IP? When Disney originally created, Pirates of the Caribbean or Haunted Mansion, didn't that become an IP? But it's just going in reverse. They're turning that into movies as opposed to turning movies into parks, right?
I'm really glad you brought this up, because I really don't think, and I'm going to speak on behalf of me, but I think there'll be other people that might agree with it. It's not necessarily the IP that we don't like. We want people like us who are parks. I'm going to speak on people who like the parks. Yeah. We want something that you can get at Disney World that you can't get on TV, whether that's, and I think Pandora did a good job with that they didn't just make Avatar the land. Like, you go there and there's new characters, the fly guy. There's just stuff in there that's unique. And so it's not even, it's getting those unique stories. Like, people use dinosaurs as a good example. They're like, well, dinosaurs an IP. I'm like, but nothing about that ride is the movie Dinosaur.
Right.
So it's not that IP. It's that we want something, an original character, an original song, something that, because when I was a kid, you'd say what got me into Disney. It's when you're not on vacation, having that music, like the Tiki Room. Yeah. That's a song that I can get going. So music's a big deal. So even though it's an IP, if we can get maybe a new song or a new thing, and that's where you brought up Tiana. Yeah. The fact that it's not just a retelling of the story makes it a little better in my mind. Yeah. Because it's not just a retelling of the story. I mean, I think a lot of us thought that, the ending was going to be like Dr. Fossier, like basically the exact same thing as Splash Mountain, but Tiana, right. But it's not. It's a totally different. And so not to spoil it or whatever, but
no, I love it.
You know what I mean? If that makes sense. Like, they're not retelling the IP story. So, again, it's get something unique about this one, like Mickey and Minnie Railway. They created the little owl that was a new character. Things like that. Even that kind of like a nod to us that we just want something unique about the parks. Yeah,
no, that makes perfect sense. Actually, I don't think I'd really heard it that way. That park uniqueness. I mean, it's another reason that, I want to visit so many of the other, Disney parks throughout the world, is because of the different things that they have. If you just if you went to Tokyo and they just had Walt Disney World, then what's the point of going? Right. So I do think that having that opportunity to go those places, and then, Fantasy Springs opens and it's mostly all retellings, but it's done in
Right.
such a way that we haven't seen before with the technology and the animatronics.
Mhm.
And then, you know, we're stuck with projection faces everywhere.
Yeah.
So maybe they'll bring some of that here, but I do like the story extensions, but it's one of those where, you know, Disney can't win, obviously, because
Right.
I think of when my kids were much younger, you know, and our kids are around the same age. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, we have daughters that are the exact
Mhm.
same age going through the same
Yeah.
stuff. But I think of them at a younger age, and a retelling for them is exactly what they need. You know, they can
Right.
go ride,
Yeah.
you know, under Little Mermaid under the sea and go, I know this
Right.
story. Where us as
Mhm.
adults are like, all right, well, what happened next? You know, I already know this.
Yeah.
I don't want to see it. So it's
Right.
kind of one of those things where,
It
yeah,
is.
I
You
don't know
can't
if Disney
win.
can
I
win.
agree.
Yeah.
And just having a little bit something unique is really what we're looking for. Like, you know, most of my favorite jokes about Disney are going to be based around like, you know, Warden Wilson Matua, like these characters that are only found at Disney World. So just
Yeah.
give us more of those
Yeah.
in these other places. And at least for me, I'll be happy. Give me a new character every once in a while that maybe wasn't in the movie, just something that I can quote and bring home with me and as a song, and
Yeah.
I'll be happy as a clam.
I love it. Absolutely love it, man. All right. You got time for one or two more?
I love it, man. Anything, whatever you got.
Let's do it. How do you feel about the current state of the Disney parks and all of the changes that have come from the pandemic? You know, I mean, we all know that a lot of the major changes that came, you know, paid Fast Pass, which is Genie Plus, you know, shutting down, you know, certain benefits and all of that. They weren't birthed because of the pandemic. They were implemented because of it. It was a time to say, hey, parks are closed for a couple months.
Let's reset.
Now's the time to reset. Do you like the reset, or do you want to go back to the way things were?
The real answer is it doesn't matter, because no, absolutely don't like almost all of them.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter. It's like when they started charging for parking at the, you know, the Hampton Inn.
Yeah.
They're never taking it away.
Right.
It's gone. It's over. You know, things like that. Like once these things come, if you've ever sat in on any corporate call ever, revenue's never going to be allowed to go down.
Right.
And so when they introduced, I mean, let's just be honest. What is Genie Plus? It's actual free money. They're going to run the ride anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So it's literally just free money. They were going to do all this anyway. I mean, yeah, there's a little bit of technology involved, but let's be honest. At the end of the day, it's free money.
Yeah.
That's never going away. So if they can't, my biggest thing, I would always love to see what they do at Universal Tapu Tapu, like a real virtual queue, but it's not possible to monetize that the way they did Genie Plus. It won't happen at Disney.
Yeah.
They've already opened that box. And if they're making, I mean, just do the math in your head of 3 families that bought Genie Plus that day times, you know, 20,000. I don't know how many people buy it a day, but that number is way too big to go away.
It's insane.
And so that's one. I think just I've had to really, and this in my own head, I have really 2 Walt Disney Worlds. I really do have the Walt Disney World of my past, and I have had to make peace with it. And if you're really going to enjoy what they're offering today, you have to make peace with the changes. Otherwise, you're just going to sit there and complain about them all day. And do you love them all? No, not at all. But you turn the page and like, I'm going to enjoy what they have today.
Yeah.
Or not. And if people choose not to, I get it. I actually really respect there's those guys that do the retro WDW stuff. A lot of those guys don't go anymore.
Yeah.
So respect, man. Like, you know, that kind of thing. You know, if you're not going to enjoy it, don't go. And props to you, you know.
Yeah. I mean, I was absolutely shocked, because you're right. I mean, think of another corporation like Disney that can print money on demand anytime they want, you know, and they did that when they started charging for parking at resorts, which I am still to this day shocked that they went back on and took away charging. I can't even believe it. Like,
I wanted to make sure that that's what happened before I wanted to mention it, but I wasn't 100% sure that I thought they did, but I haven't stayed in a while, but that's
unprecedented.
I am shocked too.
Yeah. I mean, I would like to think that it was the strongly worded letter that I specifically wrote to them.
I think it was.
That finally got across Iger's desk, and he was like, I don't know, this guy means business. He's pretty upset about it. Let's go ahead and let's reverse it.
Yeah. So I mean, I would love it. Maybe I'm too bitter about that they'll never go away. I mean, maybe they would. Obviously, I'd rather go back to the favorite paper Fast Pass where you can walk up to run to the ride and like get it, and then like then enjoy the rest of your day.
Yeah.
But
Well, and what I think is,
I
what I think so interesting to think about as well is that there are people that going to Disney that don't even know that past that pre-pandemic existed
Right.
because they'd never been before, so they
Right.
just come and they're like, oh, okay, this is Disney. This is what it's like,
Yep.
and then you have the people that haven't been since and they don't know what it's like now. And they kind of hold on to those. Whereas, and again, for us and Ron and I try and convey how lucky we are, to be able to go to the parks pretty much whenever we want and enjoy them. And so I know we all see it in a different light when you could show up to a park and go, you know what, I'm actually not going to ride anything today. I don't want to spend money on Genie Plus and I don't want to wait, longer than 30 minutes or something.
Mm-hmm.
So it's interesting to look at it from those perspectives of all the different type of people that visit,
Yeah. I mean, you bring up a good point because I see a lot of like I said, I don't want to go negative. When people get negative, they go, I can't even believe being a first-time visitor. They must hate it. And you probably know this because you deal with a lot of first-time visitors. They don't.
Yeah.
You talk to family and they're like, they go in there and they didn't have Genie Plus and they went and they did stuff. And you're like, how was your day? They're like, it was great.
Yeah.
Like, and you're almost trained to think everybody must hate it.
Right.
Because I hate the changes.
Right.
And it's amazing. A lot of them don't. And they didn't, like you said, they didn't know what it was like before. And they didn't hate it. So I do see that a lot, that the response is, boy, I feel terrible for the new visitors that have to deal with this. Well, they don't, it's a lot of them don't, it really is.
They don't know any different. Yeah. We took, back in, I guess it was, April. Was that I don't even know what month it is. It's June now. Back in April, we took, one of Rhonda's best friends who hadn't been since she was a kid. And she was the perfect guest to take because in her mind was, I don't even know what's here. Therefore, if I don't do it, I can't be disappointed that I didn't.
Yeah.
And I was like,
right.
Wow, I wish every Disney guest could be like you, in a sense where they could just go, you know what, whatever's here, I'll do. Whatever I don't. The only thing she hated was we rode Cosmic Rewind. I got the virtual queue that morning. We rode it. And then she came out and she's like, I want to ride it again. And I was like, well, you can't. What do you mean I can't? And I looked up, the individual lightning lanes were sold out that day. And I'm like, you cannot ride it again. She's like, well, I'll just go stand in line. Nope. No, you won't.
Yeah.
And that was really her only fault, but everything else, she walked out of there going, that was amazing. And she didn't walk out of there going, well, I didn't ride this because she didn't even know it existed. So yeah. If you get a chance to take someone who knows nothing. It's awesome.
I think that, and it really is cool. And I think what's interesting, you bring up because right now there's so many different types of currently the way they're doing it.
Yeah.
Like they're doing Tron differently than they're doing,
Tiana's
Cosmic Rewind.
Oh, Cosmic Rewind. Yeah.
Tiana's different than they're doing that. So what you can almost tell by that is we are not sitting in what it's going to be. Right. Whatever it's going to be moving forward is not what it is right now, because they're doing 3 or 4 different ways of mixing virtual with Genie Plus with standby. And you're like, well, what's going to happen? So it's really a stay tuned at this point anyways. So let's not get used to whatever we have right now.
Oh, I know.
They're clearly trying to see which of these is working best for, because you have to try to please the people that didn't plan ahead, because they are going to still sell single day tickets. You have to plan, please the people that did plan out and they're staying on site, because you can't really cut out any of those. The single day guests, you can't cut out the resort guests. So they got to try to figure out a way to make it work for everybody. And the one thing that I see by what I see is we're not sitting in the final product.
Right. Yeah. And that's the other thing with, the newer guest is, we were just talking about, like, we know that when a change comes, we've got to live through all those different, different changes and all. And they don't. They show next time that person shows up, just say 6 months from now, they might go, oh, Tiana's is either a, Genie Plus or it's standby. Okay. They don't know that we had to go through a virtual queue for pass holder previews and then Genie Plus or, whatever on the day it opens. And so that part's interesting. With all of those, in case anyone doesn't know, how do you feel about standby? What is you're very, that's one of the things I think that if you had a billboard of your account, it would be eliminate standby. And I know you mentioned, Tapu is a direction you would like to see headed, is that everything is somehow digital, or what would be your ultimate way to enjoy Disney World rides?
Yeah, eliminate standby has always been sort of what it got boiled down to, because what the way that came from is everyone always said, if you just got rid of fast pass, standby would move faster.
Right.
And I'm like, you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
You can't serve two lines. You can't have two entrances.
Mm-hmm.
So my whole thing is, if eliminating fast pass will make the standby line move faster, then eliminating standby will make the fast pass work more efficiently.
Yeah.
And that's really as simple as that. And that's what, and because the other thing that screws it up is when you are holding a virtual to something and you're also standing in another line. You got to get rid of that too. And that's what Tapu Tapu does. You got to decide one or the other. And that's why that is, in my opinion, the best system. Is the benefit to standby. There is benefit to standby. Is you have to look and be like, am I willing to wait an hour for this? But if I can wait for an hour in this and go ride this, well, then now, of course, I'm going to stand in this line. So this line is now extra long because people are just in it, but also riding other things.
Right.
You have to give them that value, that decision on value of your time. And should I stand in line for Tron, or would I rather ride Jungle Cruise right now? Get out of that line and go in this line.
Yeah.
So
no, that makes sense.
That's really where it came down from. It always kind of bugged me when people were like, if you just got rid of fast pass, standby would be great. And I'm like, you got to use that same logic the other way around.
100%.
Get rid of standby, and now virtual works way better.
Yeah. Yeah, completely.
And that's where eliminate standby came from.
Yeah. I love it. I'm with you. I'm in the eliminate standby team. So if you need a vice president or something, I got you, man. Do you want to see a fifth park at Disney, or would you rather just see the continued expansion of the current four?
That one, I just don't think there's any reason, honestly. I'd say that knowing that, because they're actually most likely, I mean, I feel they're going to get rid of one of the water parks pretty soon. And, I don't think there's any chance that we're going to see a fifth park.
Yeah.
There's just I think they do their research on how long people stay. And the only reason to add another park is if they could prove that people are going to stay longer. And I don't have this data, but I thought I remember them saying that Animal Kingdom didn't add on to the stays as much as they thought it would.
Right.
When they built Animal Kingdom, that it didn't extend it that extra day, 2 days that they thought it would. They just redistributed.
Right.
And so I don't think it's possible. I don't think it's going to happen. No.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with you. And, I think I keep saying, wait and see what Epic Universe does. And again, as we were talking more from a cost to the consumer standpoint, because you're going to look at what that's going to cost to become a pass holder or buy a 3-park, ticket for your trip. Just imagine if Disney added a fifth. I mean, I understand that annual passes and tickets go up each year, but they don't go up anywhere near what they would if you put an entire other park. Yet we're still getting new lands. We're still getting new rides.
I think you nailed it. When Disney added Galaxy's Edge to Disneyland, that was basically saying we're not doing this. We know this is what we're going to do is we're going to add on to because we can make an entire land that has nothing to do with the rest of the park.
Right.
And we're just going to do that.
Yeah.
But the only thing I'd say about that with a fifth park is I think we might be talking about sort of an older school mentality. I think one of the companies between Disney and or Universal will at some point make the decision to just completely change ticketing.
Yeah.
Based on people are going to be taking shorter vacations, people are going to be splitting between the two, and how do you best take advantage of sort of segmenting your vacation or offering it in different ways? And someone's going to reinvent the wheel, and I don't know which one it's going to be, but one thing about competition, and I've heard Disney executives talk about this, is you don't want to go head to head. You want to figure out a way to change the game. Yeah. So now you're playing a completely different game, and Disney has the time, the money, and the legacy to change the game and win based on that. And so one of them is going to change ticketing, and then we'll be talking. The fifth park thing will be, antiquated thought.
Yeah, won't be up for the conversation. Well, this has been a blast, but I like to end with a little rapid fire round.
Yes.
Some quick rapid fire questions. So kind of first answer you think of. You ready?
Yes.
All right. Favorite Disney snack?
The pickle, pickle in a bag.
Of course you would say that in front of me. How dare you? Your favorite Disney park?
Disney's Animal. Okay. Disney's Animal Kingdom is my favorite park, but Typhoon Lagoon, man, I don't know. I think I might have to say Typhoon Lagoon.
I love it.
Because There's nothing better.
Yeah. So you mentioned, you think they could end up closing one of the water parks with 2025 coming and them having the new perk of, getting to enjoy a water park on your check-in day at a Disney resort. Yeah. Do you think there's an opportunity in 2025 that they reopen both parks at the same time to, test the waters and then kind of go from there? Because we haven't seen them both open since, before the pandemic.
I do not. I think it's much more likely that we're going to see a bit of an investment into Typhoon Lagoon to expand capacity to be prepared for that. And no, I don't ever foresee a day where both are open again, personally.
Yeah. That makes me sad, Daniel. Makes me very sad. But what is your favorite ride attraction?
Yeah, no. Pound for pound, Expedition Everest is probably my absolute favorite, pound for pound. Minnie and Mickey Runaway Railway that is my new favorite. Between that and it and Rise of the Resistance are so cool, both of them. But I would have to say there's just something so fun about Mickey and Minnie. But if I had to say, at the end of the day, Expedition Everest would be number one.
Love it. What is your favorite past attraction that is no longer at Disney World?
It was probably the Skyway until we got the gondolas. Yeah. So that I feel like that's we're okay now. So I got to go with, I'm a Horizons guy. I'm one of those guys. Yeah. I watched all the videos of them climbing through the stages and everything. I'm a Horizons guy.
That's awesome. I love it. What is your favorite quick service restaurant anywhere on property?
I would say at a resort, I'm going to go with, in the resorts, I would definitely do the Polynesian is just my favorite. Yeah. But then Satuli Canteen in Pandora is I love everything about that restaurant, from the way it looks to the way it tastes to everything about it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's tough to beat. Favorite table service or signature dining?
I've always been a Citrico's guy. I love Citrico's. I actually love, hard not. Yeah, I'm going to go with Citrico's, actually.
I love it.
Big fan.
I think Citrico's is very underrated. It doesn't pop up in conversations often enough, and it is outstanding. And the refurb's nice.
Oh, I know, and it's great. And I would say and I'm going to go, you're going to go with one of yours. Even that, I know you love Three Bridges, but son of a gun, what's the original? Maya Grill.
Yeah.
Has always been one of my favorites.
Super underrated.
Super underrated. Is Maya Grill. If you're going for just a great meal, that was always been one of my favorites.
Yeah, so good. I would assume that your favorite resort is Poly. Let's say second favorite resort then.
Right, because honestly, as much as we both say how much we loved it, my goodness, is it expensive. Yeah. So when, again, pound for pound, we're going French Quarter. Absolutely. I think the French Quarter, and now that it's on the Skyliner, Caribbean Beach, it has really just skyrocketed that resort to just a great experience because of the Skyliner.
Yeah. Yeah. Love it. Your favorite Disney character?
Pluto. Guy.
Okay.
Classic.
Yeah.
Pluto.
Love it. Do you have a favorite Disney memory?
Yeah, it's actually riding the People Mover with my grandmother. It's one of the absolute first memories of Disney. I didn't go that often as a kid, but when I did, there's just something about, my grandma couldn't do much, but she could do the People Mover, and we probably did it 700 times.
That's awesome. I absolutely love that. Well, man, thank you for joining me. This has been a long time coming. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. I would do this every day. We should do this every day.
Oh, heck yeah. And that's what I want to create out of this series is just, two people that love Disney sitting down and talking with a little bit of some direction from, my cool.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate it. I don't, honestly, we don't get to talk about a lot of this stuff in depth much. So this has been really fun.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm glad you could make it. I'll let everybody know, if they don't already, where they can find you on social.
Yeah. At The Leisure Prof.
Love it. And I've been loving the TikTok content. So please keep that coming, even if it's just for me. I'll click like. Hey
man, I find it's just so much fun. And I think that, just to go back on, content creating, I just think, if you can just keep it, you're having fun with it, and it makes you like smile and laugh, then you're doing the right thing.
Boom. That's perfect, man. Well, thank you again, Daniel. Appreciate it. And we got to connect in the parks here pretty soon. We'll be back next weekend, so maybe we can hang out for a few or something.
We'll catch some more live music at the House of Blues. I like that.
Heck yeah. Yeah. You'll just walk up and find me. Most likely. I'll be there.
That's where you're at.
I'm waiting for Dreams That
Like
Soar.
I always said, if you want to, this goes to everybody. If you want to find Jeremy anywhere at Disney, just pick a spot and wait. And he will eventually be there.
I love it. All right, man. Well, thank you, brother. I appreciate it. And we'll chat very, very soon.
Take care, man.
Always such a pleasure to get to chat with Daniel. So make sure you follow him on Twitter and TikTok so you don't miss any of his outstanding content. That'll wrap it up for today, but make sure you hit the subscribe button so you get brand new episodes every Tuesday and Friday. We got a lot of great stuff coming up, including another episode this month from the Journey into Imagination series, and I cannot wait to bring you our next guests. If you are getting ready to plan that trip to Disney World, Universal, you're looking to go on a cruise or travel anywhere else in the world, don't forget to get your free quote from mainstmagictravel.com. Again, those travel services are completely free to you. As long as you're out on the internet subscribing and checking out Daniel's social media, getting your free quote from Main Street Magic Travel, you know that Rhonda and myself, and I'm sure Daniel as well, would love if you could please leave us a rating and review. It really does help our show grow. That's all we've got. We'll see you real soon.
Jeremy and Rhonda are more than a little fond of Disney World, so they made this podcast to share it all with you. Reports and resorts, top 10 lists of all sorts, Main Street Magic's bringing it home for you.